Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Plenty of good stuff in store, and we thought we would have a little bit of fun today on Coffee Break because you guys have been so good at tagging me and mentioning me and responding back to comments. I thought, why not go through all of my mentions and answer some of your questions? And there's no better person to do that with than, of course, the one and only Richie Carni, who, in fact, did get in trouble the other day for screaming about Embiid so much that other people in our station could hear them. So it's going to be an ASMR episode.
Yes, Rachel, thank you so much for having me today. This is a great honor.
No, I'm totally kidding. It will not be ASMR, but we do have Richie here.
No soundproofing can contain me.
Never. He needs his own podcast 100%. But I'm excited to get into some of the mentions or responses that I got. So let's just start with this one to top it off. Well, first of all, I need to give a little bit of context real quick. If you have not seen Colin Cowherd, he absolutely goes off on his show about the people that are mad about Taylor Swift being shown on the TV. I have it on my Twitter. Please go check it out if you have not already. Literally, he destroys a lot of people in that, and I felt like a community was brought together. But in it, he provides so much context for other things besides Taylor Swift. So just read this. Wow, the takeaway from this is not the losers that are still crying about Tay-Tay on the TV. It's that in a 3-hour broadcast, there is only 18 minutes of football. And that is why I watch hockey. In a 2-hour broadcast, there is 60 full minutes of hockey. No clock running while guys are just standing there. If the clock is running, the players are playing. I find this to be absolutely fascinating. One, I think this is why a lot of people really enjoy hockey. But 18 minutes of football we watch in a 3-hour broadcast. Go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I actually think 18 is a higher figure than I've seen. I feel like I've read and seen it as low as 14 or 15, 16 minutes.
And yet we all tune in.
And it's one of those things we do because, I mean, there's a lot that happens there. But yes, to the tweeter's point about there's 3 20-minute periods in hockey. Now, they take TV timeouts and things during that. Anybody that's gone to a game knows that. You can see it. But the pace of play and the flow of the game in hockey is so much faster. So it attracts your attention more. With football,
I'm trying so hard not to laugh because Richie is trying so hard to be quiet.
I'm gonna yell. No, but I'm like, why are you laughing at me right now? Yes, so it is crazy. But if you think about it, to Colin Cowherd's point, when we watch a football game, we're watching 90% something else, whether it's cutaways to the booth, it's, shots of the sideline, it's fans housing hot dogs or making a beer snake or whatever it is. But football, we are so ingrained and have such a deep appreciation for football that we just block all of that out until apparently Taylor Swift gets involved in the equation and then everyone's ready to dice up the seconds.
Yeah. How dare you talk about the most famous pop star in the world.
Biggest pop star in the world, dating arguably the greatest tight end of all time, but that's where we draw the line.
Cut it. I honestly do think, too, there's a lot of misconception about why people are mad. I think some people truthfully do believe, and I want to do a conspiracy episode here on Coffee Break. I do think people believe that the NFL just got the Chiefs to the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift. And I don't believe in that conspiracy. I don't think that there's a script written. I think too many things can happen in each game, to each their own if you do believe that. But I think that's another reason there's so much hate towards her.
Rachel, the Chiefs have now gone to 6 straight AFC championships. They did 5 of them consecutively without Taylor Swift. I don't think, no disrespect to Taylor, praise be, I don't think the Chiefs needed Taylor Swift's help to get to a Super Bowl.
I agree. They just needed Patrick Mahomes, okay?
Yeah. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce are doing just fine.
You're doing just fine. If only the Broncos had this QB, which leads us into the next one we've got. Why can't Russ be the backup? Broncos have to pay him anyways, and he knows the system. I don't think it's disrespectful. Many good QBs finish their season as a backup. Flacco is an example.
Joe Flacco wasn't carrying an $80 million dead cap and making $40 million a year.
I get the point of if you have to pay him anyways, why not keep him on your roster? That's a pretty dang good backup.
Yes and no, because if you were to pull the backup quarterback, 32 backup quarterbacks in the NFL and make Russ one of them, he'd probably be the best backup quarterback.
Well, that's what you want
in the
right?
NFL. It is, but he's not making backup quarterback money, which affects how you construct
But you have to
your
pay him
roster.
anyways.
You do, but then there's a locker room dynamic of this was the leader of your team last year, and sometimes you need to just rip off the Band-Aid.
But he proved that he can be a really good backup. He was being super supportive of Stidham.
For how many games?
For 2.
For 2 games.
Listen, I'm just trying to help the
voice,
tweeter.
the voice that he had and the opinions he gave at the end of the season when he was really raw and honest about his frustrations. I don't think that's a guy that was ready to slog through a 17-game season as a backup. Finishing out the final 2 games and, looking ahead, I think he can, he's mature enough and respectful enough to bite through that. I don't think that's a guy that wants to be in a situation. He still thinks he's a starter, whether he's right or not. So I don't think that's a guy that's in a mindset that's ready to be like, you know what, I'll be a clipboard guy for Jared Stidham or Ben DiNucci.
Does he really have a choice? If somehow, which again, I'm not here for this just to make it clear. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate on this tweet because I thought it was very interesting.
No, I mean, it's the argument of you have to pay him anyway, so why not get something out of it, I think is reasonable. But when you factor in all of the other elements at play, the locker room dynamic, but
everyone loves Russ. No one seems to care how much money Russ is making.
They want to win.
They do want to win. And so you're going to have a new QB who hopefully can do it. And how many people have come to the defense of Russ being like, you need Russ with 2 minutes left in the game. He'll be able to drive you down there. What happens if your QB gets hurt? Russ can still throw it.
But again, you're trying to run an entirely different offense, right? Sean Payton made all these concessions with let me simplify it. Let me simplify it this way. And maybe I'm crazy.
Aren't you going to do that with the backup QB anyways, though? It's not going to be the entire playbook. Anyways.
Rachel, if you okay, I'm going to ask you an honest question, and we'll toss it out to everybody else there too. If let's say you're in a relationship.
Okay.
You're dating someone.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and you've been dating for a year.
Okay.
And you're living together. So
Beautiful.
clearly you might have rushed into things.
I moved in with my fiance after 9 months, but
and well, actually this would be great. So you're living together, you're dating, you live together for a year, and you break up.
Okay.
Do you look at that and be like, well, we can still be roommates, we're not dating, we can still be roommates, we have a 2-bedroom place.
Yeah.
Or do you just be like, you know what? We need to turn a page here. We need to break ties and just go our separate ways.
For $82 million, I will stay put in that apartment complex.
You know what? That's an awesome rebuttal that I didn't consider, but that doesn't really fit in this comparison. The money is not, you can't factor in the money, but yeah, it just conceptually speaking, I think most reasonable people would be like, you know what? I don't want to live with my ex-girlfriend. It's going to affect the future relationships. And I just need to, for me, turn the page. And I think that's where the Broncos are at with Russ.
Listen,
you tried. It didn't work.
They want to cut him. It's done. That relationship cannot be mended anymore. I 100% get it. And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. There's nothing I wouldn't
do for $82 million. Now that you said it, it's my own example has been flipped on my head. There's nothing I wouldn't do for $82 million.
That's the thing.
I would stay with an ex-girlfriend that I didn't like for $82 million. Probably.
Well, Russ doesn't really need the $82 million. So I guess that's where we're all a little different too. The Broncos are just ready to move on, right? Like when the person who owns the house is like, all right, it's time for you to get out. That's when it's time for you to move on. So it'll be interesting to see where Russ lands. Where do you think?
Gosh, I mean, everybody, like, I want to say like the unusual or the usual suspects make a lot of sense. Something like Atlanta, who's in striking distance to maybe move up or get one of the bottom half of the top 5 QBs in the draft. Pittsburgh, same situation, who with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, it just feels like they're not getting it done. A lot of spin about the Raiders with Vegas.
If you are Russell Wilson, I am saying I do not in any change. Like there's nothing you could do to make me go to Las Vegas. Why would you want to stay in this division?
Well, I think from Russ's perspective, you want a job. You want to prove that you can still do it. So if Vegas is the best option to offer you, I don't think you factor in whether it's a division. And I don't know that intrinsically Russ is the kind of person who's motivated to be like, I'm going to stick it to the Broncos and stick it to Sean Payton, even though he kind of was like that with Seattle, but you're going to a different conference entirely at that point. I think it's predicated around if Vegas is willing to believe in me and give me a shot, and not that many other people are, I'd go there.
Okay, but if that's your only option, sure, you want to play football. But if you have between Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and the Raiders, get the heck out of the AFC West.
Because I think Atlanta's got an army of weapons at their disposal. You know, Drake London is a budding wide receiver one.
Yep.
Kyle Pitts is the highest drafted tight end, I think, almost ever, if not ever. And, you know, had 1,000 yards as a rookie with aging Matt Ryan at quarterback.
Yeah.
So they've got, and Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the NFL. So they've got tons of weapons. Pittsburgh, similar situation.
Yep.
They've got good running backs. They've got a couple of good receivers. It just doesn't seem like they've been able to get stable quarterback play. So I could totally see getting out of the division if those are the two teams. But if it's not, then I don't think he's against it. Although I will say, I think Russell Wilson would be the worst Raider ever. Like, he does not at all. He's a nice guy. And kind of cushy and Mr. This man.
You're telling me he's not on the strip at 2 a.m.?
He doesn't. Yes, he does not embody anything about, you know, the grizzly, mean black hole Raiders wearing their armor and all that. Like what's the phrase, like, Raider Nation, let's loot? I don't know. Yeah. How do you do that?
Make that up?
Yeah.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I just, like, he does, like, I don't see Raider fans being like, that's our guy, you know?
That's the man.
Right? You know,
it's gonna lead us to the promised land.
And I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo, he might be the hottest starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's not a Raider.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Maybe that's my misperception of it. I just picture, like,
who was their backup this year?
Aiden O'Connell.
Yes.
I
was thinking Aiden Hutchinson. I'm like, he plays for the Lions.
Yes.
Aiden O'Connell, you're correct. He kind of gave it to me a little.
Yeah, I think he's almost like,
this is gonna sound stupid. It's like the dark eyelashes, right? Like the Derek
Carr with, like, the mascara look.
That
angry
was it.
Derek Carr.
That was it. Also, you see that the Chiefs and 49ers are staying off of the strip. They are not allowed to stay on the strip.
Yeah, that's smart.
So smart.
If I'm an NFL coach, GM, owner, whatever,
get the heck away from Vegas.
You guys are gonna bust in an hour. I'm keeping you away. It's Sin City. We got a game to win.
Amen to that one. All right, moving on to the next one. We got, who would trade with Denver to move into the top 3? And you know what?
It's a great question.
It's a fair question. Who is? You got the Bears. You got the Commanders.
Bears. I would be stunned if the Bears moved off of the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I think whether they move on from Justin Fields or not, because I think people forget that there is a world where they draft Caleb Williams and hold on to Justin. They haven't paid Justin Fields yet.
Yeah.
So they can still ride him out for the final year or two of his contract, including a 5th-year option, and turn him into basically a really interesting bridge quarterback, a young bridge quarterback to Caleb Williams if they really wanted to. Or they could pitch him for a 3rd-round pick, maybe a 2nd-round pick if they really find an attractive buyer, kind of thing. So I don't think Chicago moves off of number 1. Now, they do move off of number 9. They could. I could see that, especially because they have 1 overall. But again, I think that's a situation where you could draft your new quarterback, heir apparent, a skill position player, an offensive lineman, whatever it may be, or maybe bolster up your defense a little bit. So if the Broncos wanted to move from 12 to 9, maybe. I don't know if that moves the needle. That's not going to get you a Drake Maye or probably not a Jaden Daniels.
Our QB's going 1, 2, 3 in this draft. Again, you got Bears, Commanders, Patriots.
I think they easily could. Now, I think we've speculated this a lot of times. Like, quarterback. I mean, during the Hall of Fame 5-year in 2015, we're like, quarterbacks could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
You know, but it rarely happens that way because you get movement in the draft. Somebody shifts around, or somebody who we thought was going to move on from a QB ends up sticking with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Washington could be in play because they seem like they could draft a quarterback. They're going to have a new regime there, and usually a new regime presents an opportunity for them to get their guy and
also don't have a head coach right now.
Not carry the sins of the father of the previous regime. New England, same kind of thing. If it was Belichick, I wouldn't have seen Belichick taking a quarterback that high in the draft, you know, and doing that. But it's going to be Gerard Mayo. And who knows? I mean, he's not an offensive guy, you know, per se, but his staff, if that's what they evaluate, because clearly you're not cutting the mustard with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi and whatever, and you don't know when you're going to be in this position again. So I could see situations where all of those move off, but I think that it's more likely that they don't. So a team like Arizona, who's already publicly said they're moving forward with Kyler Murray, who they have paid already. That seems like an interesting candidate.
Number 4.
Yeah. You're in the top 5. You know,
Agreed.
you're not in Caleb Williams territory, but
Yep.
if something really weird happened and Drake Maye fell that low, or a Jaden Daniels is probably right there in that wheelhouse,
That'd be amazing.
unless QBs go 1, 2, 3, you're looking at Jaden Daniels potentially there. So I think Arizona's a candidate, but then again, do you have the assets to move forward? Are you now dealing? You just got done dealing your first round picks for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton consecutively.
Yeah.
You finally got one. You kind of played with that little run they had on the back half of the season. You played yourself out of the top 10 and even the top 5. Are you ready to then reload and fire off multiple first round picks and potentially Pat Surtain to move up?
I was going to say, how's Pat Surtain looking in red and white?
I mean, he's a damn good corner. So I think he looks good in whatever jersey he wears. But I do think that that's a tough situation that you put yourself in, because eventually, you know, the Les Snead F them picks model of just constantly dealing picks and picks and picks. You have to hit on the later round. You have to hit on the later round picks that you make, and you have to be able to be financially fluid and maneuver around things. And the Broncos are going to be in a little bit of a precarious cap situation. So when you have a team like this that kind of needs to retool and rebuild and nail the quarterback situation, you can say, hey, we're going to sell the farm to get the quarterback because it's the most important position in professional sports. But then you're not going to have any assets to address left tackle or corner or you know, the skill position. If you lose Cortland Sutton or you know whatever, you're going to need wide receivers and all that. So you're really going to have a bare cupboard to try to fill the rest of your team's needs if you keep constantly.
The Broncos ultimately have screwed themselves twice.
They've had a lot of mismanagement, I think, or mismanagement, and then they've had some big swings that I think made sense at the time and made sense in principle, but just didn't pan out. You sold the farm and pushed all your chips in on Russell Wilson.
Here's my
and it
one
didn't
thing
work.
on this. You can do it once, right? It's like shame on what we just talked about this.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me because it happened again.
Yeah. Do you know what? Shame on the Broncos because they sold it again for Sean Payton.
Fool me for a decade. What's fool me 10 times?
Yep.
Exactly.
Are we at 10? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're close to a decade, you know, post Super Bowl 50. We're close to a decade of post Super Bowl 50. We're at what, 7 straight losing seasons now. You know, how is drafting Bradley Chubb over Josh Allen a fool me?
That's gonna haunt them for the rest of forever.
All of these, you know, free agent signings that haven't panned out, those kinds of things.
This perfectly leads us into the next thing I was tagged in on Twitter. This is back to 2023, of course, everybody talking about it, but people saying the many mistakes the Broncos have made, which we just talked about. One of them was not hiring Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. Woody Page chimes in and says, Ellis thought Kyle Shanahan gave the best interview ever. He called Elway and said, you make the decision as head of football operations. Elway wasn't happy that Shanahan didn't like Paxton Lynch, but he said he would try to work with them. Elway chose Joseph there. I love, first of all, that this is coming back up.
It's never going to go away because it's not just that the Broncos made mistakes. It's that they made mistakes and the other end of the decisions that they could have gone with are constantly better and being thrown back in their face. We're watching Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes square off in the divisional round every year. We're watching Kyle Shanahan go to championship after championship, Super Bowl after Super Bowl, just constantly putting himself in the limelight. So it's not like, hey, I made a mistake and, you know, out of sight, out of mind, forget about it, move on. It's like, no, this is like,
it's the girlfriend that keeps coming back now. She moved out of the house.
It's the girl. Yes. It's the girl that you broke up with that all of a sudden goes on to be Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? You had her first. You had the first crack. She was into you. And then you turned her down, kind of thing. And
just a slap in the face.
It is. How about this? I read this earlier today too. So Mike Shanahan and Ed McCaffrey won 3 Super Bowls together. 2 here in Denver, but Mike was the OC in San Fran when they won a Super Bowl, and Ed McCaffrey was on that team. So Shanahan, the father, and Ed McCaffrey won 3 Super Bowls together. Now, the sons of those 2 men, Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey, have a chance to win a Super Bowl with a team that their parents did, their fathers did. How cool is that?
I mean, cool,
You
but
want to
it
talk about like
crushes my
you want
heart.
to talk about NFL lineage, right?
Listen, Kyle Shanahan was in the bloodline of the Denver Broncos. Everybody was saying,
He was a ball
Kyle
boy.
Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan when he was coming out for all the coaching stuff. And here we are.
Tough.
How many coaches have we gone through since Kyle Shanahan got hired by the 49ers?
Well, since VJ, right?
Yeah.
So Vance. I mean, you have interims and stuff too, but like Vance, the main ones being Vance, Fangio,
Yep.
Hackett,
And Sean.
and now Sean Payton. And you could take the interims in there, like technically Jerry Rosberg should get a couple of games. I think Eric Studesville, those kinds of things. But you've had 3 main ones, and they've lasted 2 years max.
You
each
think
of them.
Sean Payton can do it?
I do. I really do.
You believe in him?
Yeah, because listen, I think that Sean Payton is in a tier of coaches, and I understand his best accomplishments and his kind of heyday and his prime is a decade plus ago at this point, and that is worth something. It's the NFL's "What have you done for me lately?" league.
Yeah. Lately, what has he done?
Well, he's only been back for a year, since he since he kind of ducked his way. He Jim Harbaugh'd his way out of New Orleans after leaving them in cap hell and all that stuff. But I do still think he can do it because I think he's a bright offensive NFL mind. I think he is of that old guard still that the Andy Reids, the Mike Tomlin, the Bill Belichick's. I mean, and we'll see, but he's proven that he can reach the mountaintop. So if you've made it once, you can make it again. It may not be as likely. It may not be as easy. It may not be the same way. But if you did it once, you've proven that you can do it again. So I still do believe he can do it. But I was, and I'll take a page from Joel Klatt, who I was listening to this morning with Mike and Mark, who said at the end of the day, like a dirty secret is, in a lot of ways, NFL coaches are overrated.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's hard to find throughout NFL history coaches who have truly overcome subpar quarterbacks to reach the mountaintop. It's hard. It's hard to find them that did it once, let alone did it consistently. So Sean Payton can be one of the better coaches in the NFL and have one of the better offensive minds and all of that. But if he doesn't have the quarterback, he's hamstrung and he's limited. And that kind of flies in the face of, I think, the narrative when we first brought Sean Payton here was that he's going to be the savior. He's going to fix Russ. He's going to do this. He's going to do that.
Just keeps looking for a savior. Russ was going to be the savior.
We need a hero.
Sean Payton was going to.
We need something.
The next quarterback's going to be the hero, and who knows if it's going to work out. It's tough.
And without that, we'll never know.
Yeah, true.
You got to, I think one of their biggest flaws, they haven't tried. They've passed on it. They haven't tried. They took Bradley Chubb instead of Josh Allen.
Don't make the same mistake again.
Exactly.
Broncos.
You have to be able to. You're not going to hit a home run unless you swing.
Yeah.
You got to take the bat off your shoulder, and I think that John Elway being scared by the Paxton Lynch failure leading to that, that's the problem.
What grade do you give John Elway as his time as GM?
That's a really good question. Because everyone is so quick to say how bad it ended, and he had some really bad drafts. He in my opinion fell victim to being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but couldn't evaluate and find one.
Yep.
Because was he looking for himself, and that was part of his flaw? Maybe, he always liked the 6 was always a thing. He liked the 6'5", rocket arm. That's what he was.
Yeah.
But people also forget that his early tenure as GM was electric. Went to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and not just went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1, did it in entirely different ways.
Yeah.
The first way was bringing Peyton Manning here, and he was
freaking Manning.
He was instrumental in that.
Yeah.
Him slow playing it, finessing it, whatever, not doing the Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh thing where they're like taking secret planes to go meet him and they're basically like, latching onto his leg like a little kid.
Please, Peyton, please come.
Him not doing that is a big factor into,
like dating.
Yes.
You give too much.
Exactly.
They're no longer interested.
He left a little bit of room for chase.
Yep.
He had accomplished what Peyton wanted to do, which was to finish his career and ride off into the sunset. John Elway did it. He went back to back and was done. So there's that. But he did it by bringing Peyton Manning here and building statistically I still think it is the best offense of all time in the NFL. They shattered every record in 2013 when they went to the Super Bowl and got blown out by the Seahawks.
Yep.
They got blown out. So what did he do? Stripped it down to the studs and then built the best, one of the best defenses in NFL history.
Crazy.
And they won it. So I'm going to give John Elway a better than average grade as a GM. I'll give him
a B?
I'll give him a B.
Okay.
B minus.
What about Sean Payton's first year? I talked about this on Denver Sports Daily today. I'm giving him a C, right? Like he got Broncos country's hopes up. He said, if this team isn't a playoff team, I'm going to be pissed. Perfect. I wanted it. Did they make it? Nope. Automatically drops you down. How the Russell Wilson situation was handled, I'm like, okay, we're also dropping down. But they start off really bad and then they work their way up. So I feel like just a C average, I'm like, okay, we can work off of this, but I'm only giving you one more year, Sean Payton, and you better be able to produce a playoff team.
Yeah, I think C is fair. Anywhere in that C plus range, I think is fair. I don't think you can call it a B because we didn't deliver on, like you said, we didn't deliver on some of the things that he was adamant that we were going to do. But that turnaround,
you know what though,
that they had, that's some of the most exciting stretch of Broncos football since Tebow mania.
It might be a C minus because you gave up 2 draft picks for him.
See, but again, you have to ante in to get into the hand at the card table. You have to put something forward. That's the going rate, though. It's like any team that signed Sean Payton or traded for Sean Payton, that's what it was going to cost.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if that's worth it right now.
Right now, but you didn't make the trade.
Well, I just said 1 year. 1 year.
Right, but you didn't make the trade for just last year. You made the trade to set up a foundation for your future.
Did you make the trade for Sean Payton to fix Russell Wilson, or did you make the trade for a possible redemption in the next 5 years?
Both.
So then he failed on one.
Sure, but that doesn't mean he failed entirely.
Okay.
And I don't think it's all his fault that he failed in that first year because I think he did make concessions. I think he changed. I don't think Sean Payton ran the offense he wanted to run.
Fair.
I think he did everything he could in a lot of ways to try to build around Russ's strengths and fix. The reality is it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And if that's not enough, then who knows what would be enough.
Fair.
So I think it's very telling now going forward. Sean Payton is going to get his opportunity, whether it's through a veteran free agent, whether it's through drafting a young guy, some combination of the two. We are going to see what Sean Payton can do when he's in charge of buying the groceries at quarterback, which he wasn't when he came in.
Okay.
So I'll give him a C like that. And I'm not going to hold against him his price of entry to get him here.
Well, here's how desperate Broncos country is. This is one of the controversial takes that people have put me in.
Boy.
Start DiNucci. Wow. Just starting off right there. Cut Stidham. Okay. Draft Maye, get a veteran minimum QB 2 to 3 years, and try to let Maye sit a year if possible. I was not expecting to read that. First of all, I appreciate the take. Everybody has their own, to each their own. I truthfully believe that. I probably have a take most people don't agree with. Richie may have one. We all have that. To start Ben DiNucci, already just a little questionable because if you're gonna have Drake, well, first of all, to get Drake Maye, he better start because you are giving up a lot for him. You're, again, going into that top 1, 2, 3, possibly 4.
Mm-hmm.
You better start him. I don't know who you're going to be able to pay that's a veteran QB that they're not going to have the money for, even with a rookie deal. And then Stidham has to be better than Ben DiNucci, right? So why not keep him? You already have to pay him too.
Yeah, listen, with this one, I think there's a philosophical approach to the quarterback position that I think that take is kind of leaning into or scratching the surface of. I just don't think that that's exactly how I would manifest it. No. I don't think there's any reason to start Ben DiNucci and cut Stidham because whether you start either guy, it's not with the intention that they're going to be your long-term answer because you drafted Drake Maye. So I think Stidham's better than DiNucci.
Okay,
he might be a little bit more expensive, but it's not. I mean, we're not talking about the difference between a Russell Wilson and a Jared Stidham.
No.
You know, we're talking about, relatively speaking in NFL terms, kind of peanuts at that point. So I don't think there's any reason to hang on to Ben DiNucci to the degree you would start him and cut Stidham. I do think, and this is where I might actually differ from you a little bit, I don't hate the idea if you move up and draft Drake Maye that he doesn't start right away. I am okay with the concept of a bridge. It doesn't have to mean it's for a full season, but
wait. you're going to give up Pat Surtain.
Yep.
And God knows what else. And
Mhm.
say, you don't have to start this year, kid. Don't worry. We'll go get a Kirk Cousins.
No, see, that's different. I'm not talking about if you go get Kirk Cousins, that's your guy. You're not paying
agreed.
You're not paying Kirk Cousins $25 million plus a year.
What other QB do you want that's a free agent? That's a
What if
veteran,
what if it's Sam Darnold?
You're kidding me with like right now.
But
You want Sam Darnold to be the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos instead of Drake Maye?
as a bridge, yes, because
No. That's not what I asked you. You want Sam Darnold to be the starting QB over Drake Maye next year, starting in September.
yes, if Rachel,
If what?
if I am Sean Payton and I'm in that room and I say, hey, we've got a guy with a lot of raw talent and potential in Drake Maye, and we want to make sure that he is 100% on top of the playbook and ready to go at NFL game speed before we throw him to the wolves the way we so often do, I'm okay with that.
What do you
look
think
at look at what the Titans did with Will Levis. They let it ride for about half a season with Tannehill before things broke off, and Will Levis came out of the gate firing. You want the extreme example? Look at what the Packers did with Jordan Love under Aaron Rodgers. He sat for 3 years. Now,
what
I understand
did the
that's
Packers give up for Jordan Love?
nothing. They drafted him where he was at.
Oh,
I got
fascinating.
it. I got it.
So then,
Rachel,
quick question.
I understand, but my counter argument to that is you've invested so much in this to move up and get this guy. He is your Roman Empire.
Better be good and be ready.
Yes, okay, but is rolling the dice and gambling that worth the chance that you throw him out there to the wolves and you before he's ready or before he's had a chance to grasp it at whatever speed he needs to, and you turn him into Zach Wilson?
The Broncos don't have the luxury to be able to pay another veteran QB.
They do if it's that price, though. They do. If it's Jameis Winston,
price?
if it's Jameis Winston at $5 million for a 1-year deal, or Sam Darnold for $6 million on a 1-year deal. If it's Jared Stidham, who you're already on the books for.
So then.
So that's where, so like that person said, start DiNucci. Yeah. Start DiNucci, cut Stidham, and draft Maye. What if it's cut DiNucci, start Stidham, draft Maye? Then you don't have to bring in an outside guy because Stidham just becomes your vet minimum-esque QB.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave this to all the commenters. Please let us know.
I'm just saying, if it's that highly priced of an investment, you should be open to doing whatever you need to do to make sure that it works.
Cradle it like a little baby?
Yes.
Oh, the
yes.
cute baby that better be able to throw some bombs and be able to score touchdowns.
Yeah,
okay.
Because if you paid so much for it, if you paid that much to get up, to move up and draft him, what is paying a little bit more money to make sure that he gets along the way he needs to get along?
I don't know, but I love that we've got people that are tuning in right now and able to tell us what they think. So please let us know in the comment, whose side are you on? Richie's? I kind of see his point, but I'm going more with my side. Let us know in the comments, you guys. I love hanging out with you each and every day. Richie, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And then we will see you guys tomorrow at 12 p.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody. Bye.